If you are not a member or you're not on our mailing list, be sure and fill out one of these forms. If you just want to be on the list, it doesn't cost anything for upcoming lectures, and give that to us and write on their mailing list only. Better still, since we're primarily supported by memberships and subscriptions to our magazine, you can join for $35, and that gets you the membership to the Skeptics, the magazine, and so on. The next issue of the magazine we're working on now, the theme will have to do with false memory syndrome and a bunch of other psychology-related articles. We've got Dr. Thomas Sawes doing a piece for us on diagnoses are not diseases, and the distinction between labeling somebody with something and whether they've really got something that could be called a disease. And we've got a whole bunch of articles related to that general subject. Finally, I just wanted to bring up a couple of other things here. You've seen this flyer going around. For $1, you can get a free sample of their, no, not a free for $1, but for $1 you can get a sample of one of their tapes on the history of science. It's a good group. We don't get any money off of this. They're just a good group of folks that helps us out with doing mailings, and they give us their mailing list to draw new members, and so I'm trying to support them. I always try to call attention to some of the things we've got for sale on the book table. We do have Mark Edwards' seance that he did for us last year, and it's quite a great demonstration. He brings Houdini back from the dead. He's actually here at Caltech momentarily. Two of the books he'll be talking about today, or at least one of them, is called The Psychology of the Psychic. Basically, this explains how it is that psychics can do what they do and why it is that people believe in this sort of thing. So it's a nice synopsis of what he's talking about today, as well as this book called The Psychology of Anomalous Experiences. It's a book about weird things that happen to people that cannot really be explained. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to call on paranormal or supernatural explanations, and they do offer relatively rational explanations for these things, but it's great to read about the weird things that happen to people, because maybe they happen to you and you have no explanation for it, and they do try to offer some explanations. I will note with a certain level of sadness, though I didn't know him, the passing of Dr. Lewis Thomas, the famed science writer who was also a physician. How many of you have read any of his books, The Lies of a Cell, or you've read some of his columns on Notes of a Nature Watcher? He's well known as a popularizer of science. However, he has made important contributions in the field of medical science. His Lives of a Cell won the 1974 National Book Award. His Medusa and the Snail won the American Book Award in 1979. And I thought I would just read to you one short section from his book, The Lives of a Cell, because it is so well written. It's a collection of essays, so if you like essays, they're great because they're just a couple pages long. You can read them in 5 minutes, and it's a nice little tidbits of science. In one of these essays, he's talking about pheromones, which are the sexual hormones of moths. And he points out that if a single female moth could release all of her particular pheromone, which is called bombacol, at once, she could theoretically attract 1 trillion males in an instant. And this is one of those things I'll try to bottle, and it'll be next on Oprah. Dr. Thomas proposes that the male moth is utterly aware that he is being seduced. What he's talking about here is how we are determined by things, but we're not aware that we're determined by them, yet we are. So he says, on the contrary, he probably finds suddenly that it has become an excellent day, the weather is remarkably embracing, the time appropriate for a bit of exercise of the old wings, and he briskly turns upwind. En route, traveling the path of the bombacol, he notes the presence of other males heading in the same direction, all in a good mood, inclined to race for the sheer sport of it. Then, when he reaches his destination, it may seem to him the most extraordinary of coincidences, the greatest pieces of luck. Well, bless my soul, what have we here? Anyway, it will be a shame to not have his contributions to science writing anymore. I've been investigating, looking into getting Skeptic involved on electronic mail, and I, in the process, discovered that Omni magazine has Omni Online. Has anyone tapped into Omni Online to read some of their stuff? Let me just read you a couple of tidbits. Omni is not the most skeptical of publications, you understand. Here is one from June of 1993. During the 1992 presidential campaign, a group of angelologists worked quietly behind the scenes. Quote, "We weren't trying to influence the election," explains artist Karen Martin Curry. "We just wanted to make sure that the new president had a rapport with Uriel, the archangel of our nation," elevated to that lofty post in 1988. She says she's devoted to the study of angels. They've worked hard to promote freedom in the former Soviet Union, to make sure the right angels are in the Soviet Union. Another one is a news item about the Outer Limits, O-U-T-A, UFO Enigma Museum in Roswell, New Mexico. Now, you might wonder what a UFO museum would have. I mean, what kind of stuff can they have? Because we don't have anything that's real. So what would they have? Well, they have recreations of alleged and notorious saucer crashes, and they even have some sculptured aliens of what they reportedly look like. By the way, admission is only $1, so you get what you pay for. Harvard psychiatrist John Mack says that UFO abductees should avoid debunkers and skeptics like the plague. "It's fine to study abductees and present a skeptical point of view," he says, "but those who criticize abductees can be vicious about it." And Mack believes that so long as their verbal attacks amount to a form of abuse, that UFO abductees are a legitimate minority group whose rights are violated at every turn. At any rate, hard to believe. He says, having a TV talk show with an abductee and a skeptic in the same room is like, and I quote, "is like interviewing Holocaust survivors along with skeptics who say the Holocaust never occurred." Well, these are two radically different things. And we are presently involved in investigating the Holocaust revisionists, and it's quite interesting. At any rate, finally, according to, and just so you know that there's much debate amongst the abductionists, people who believe in abductions, that what their big debate is are aliens really bad people, or do they just accidentally hurt humans when they abduct them and probe with them? So there's another article here about this big debate that's going on. And never mind whether there's really such a thing or not. Anyway, speaking of psychic phenomenon, our speaker today will be presenting, well, what I try to do here with the lecture series is mix some good hard science and scientific controversies with some of the more fun and entertaining topics like psychic phenomena. So 2 weeks ago we had Dr. Jared Diamond speaking on human evolution and so on. And today I thought we'd do something fun for the Christmas holidays here with having a show on psychic phenomena. Mark Edward is a full-time professional mentalist who also specializes in spirit magic. He is associate resident medium at the Magic Castle's Houdini Seance Room, and you will recall he did the seance with Houdini here for us last time. He's also an animal trainer with an interest in the lore of psychic animals. Bet you didn't know there was such a thing. And he owns the world's only known performing levitating dog, which I'm trying to get him to bring here. Mark has kindly brought some of his magic books, basically how to do magic and the kind of stuff that he does. These are just $5 a piece. Actually, I think most of them are already gone, but there's a few left there on the table. And so with that, please help me welcome Mark Edward, psychic and mentalist.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Well, it's nice to be back. How many people were here last year for the seance that I did? Oh, good. Well, I will try this afternoon to meet those standards of last year. First off, I want to say I am a skeptic, okay? What I do is I come from a skeptical background. But the reason why I'm a skeptic is because I'm very interested in the possibility of these games that magicians play. Because in my experience as a professional mentalist, there are moments when certain things occur, where there's this sort of leap where all of a sudden things become a little more than I had planned as a show. So I know it's hard to believe, but I am both a skeptic and a believer at the same time. It's a very fine line to tread, but I'm going to do that for you this afternoon. Just for my own knowledge, and I'd like to just use a phrase that a good friend of mine, Steve Shaw, has used, and that is, I'm not going to tell you what I do today is real. But on the other hand, I'm not going to tell you that it isn't. We will discuss these facts later on, but right now, just for my own information, I'd like to know how many people are believers in this crowd? Well, okay, that's all right. I would like to have the people who are the real die-hard skeptics who absolutely have no feeling whatsoever that anything paranormal has ever occurred, and I mean the real diehards, to go ahead and stand up right now. The diehards, come on. All right. Okay, good. All right, you, sir. Everybody else can sit down. What I'd like you to do, sir, your name is? Doug. Doug, if you'd come out here and say hello. This is Doug. He's a die-hard skeptic, right, sir? Uh-huh. So you consider yourself a non-believer?
That's right.
You don't believe in anything?
Well.
Yes. Okay, good. All right, what I'd like you to do, Doug, is step over here for just a moment. Now, I know you all noticed this pile of magazines, and in fact, I noticed people were helping themselves to the magazines earlier, probably wondering what's going on. And I'm going to ask you, Doug, how many words would you say are in that pile of magazines over there? Just give me a rough estimate.
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. So what I'd like you to do, Doug, is go over there and have a look through the magazines and pick out one that looks interesting to you. And while you're doing that, I will continue. So, as I said, I'm going to try and work with your minds. So I hope some of you brought that with you. Otherwise, this is kind of a dull part of the afternoon. A mentalist needs the belief of the audience, and I will do anything to increase that belief, because out of it, hidden energies are revealed. What they are, we won't know for a little while, but I'm going to take some big chances working for Skeptics, but hey, risk is part of my job. You got something, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. What I'd like you to do is hand it out to somebody else in the audience, just a random person. You go ahead. It's up to you. And gentleman here. Sir, would you mind joining me on the stage? Let's give Doug a hand for helping out there. Very good. And while he's coming up, I'm going to give him a brief psychic reading. Okay, here we go. What's your name, sir? I'm sorry? Ralph? John, I'm sorry. John, right away I get the impression you're from a small town in the Midwest. From very humble beginnings, you developed an inquisitive, steel-trap mind and a compelling but compulsive personality. Right from the very start, this gentleman was the true scholar-athlete, able to discuss algebra or quantum mechanics just as easily as football or playing pool. You turned down many different offers to seek political office, trusting instead to be the accomplished advisor of philosophers, statesmen, and kings. All of this developed within you an electronic, sort of a electromagnetic personality, which has a profound effect on the people who are around you, particularly women, who find that when they enter the room, the need to touch you, to paw you, to whisper indiscretions into your ear, and not infrequently to throw their clothes off and throw themselves at your feet. Did I get that about right, sir? 100%. Good, all right, thank you, sir. Thank you. See how easy it is? All right. Now, nothing to it. We'll just sort of, I'm going to just riffle through. Say stop, sir. Stop. Right there, all right. We'll just take this page out here. And again, sir, we did not plan anything today to fool everybody else, did we? Not yet. Not yet. Okay, I'm going to give you this. I tell you what, let's do it this way. We will fold this in half, and I'm just going to tear it like this down the center. Hold up your two hands, sir. Okay, very good. One in each hand. And back up a little bit there. Hold them up in the air, sir, and I'm going to give you a choice. It'll be up to you. You're going to crumple one up, and you're going to use the other one. So when I snap my fingers, crumple one of the half pages up. And drop it into the trash here, if you would, and hold on to the other one. Okay? Now what I'd like you to do is fold that page in half. And if you would, tear the two pieces in half again. Good job. Now hold the two pieces in your hands. Which one are you going to throw away? Which one are you going to keep? It's up to you. You're going to keep that one? Crumple the other one up, drop it in the trash, if you would. One more time, take that last little piece you've got, fold it in half, and tear that in half, if you would. Hold the two pieces up. Don't think about it, sir. Which one are you going to use? All right, throw the other piece away, if you would. And now I want you to move all the way to the other side of the room, if you would, sir. You now have, I believe, 1/8 of a page. What I'd like you to do, sir, is hold your hand out flat. And now we've got two sides. Are you happy with the side there, or you want to turn it over? It's up to you. All right. Hold your other hand above your head, if you would. If you're sure, sir, as they say. Okay, here we go. You ready? Now, sir, this is very important. I want you to bring your finger down very slowly on the exact middle of that piece of paper, okay? Exactly in the middle or as close to it as possible. Can you see all right where you are there? All right, now, you're going to see a bunch of words. Now, what I want you to do, I don't want you to choose a word like if, and, or the. I want you to pick the largest word, possibly a word that has a capital letter in it or something like that, and kind of focus on it, okay? Have you got it? Yes. Don't say what it is. Does it start with a W, sir? Well, now look, search around there because I'm seeing... hold on, no, wait. I want a big word. I see two L's, sir, a W and two L's. Do you see that?
The word above, yes.
Okay. Because I was getting... it was... Is there a G at the end, sir?
What?
A G.
Yes.
Now we're getting somewhere. Is the word Wallenberg, sir?
Yeah, somebody's name.
Yeah. It is Wallenberg? Thank you. Give this gentleman a hand for helping me out. If I may. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So, now, Mr. Shermer, about 2 weeks ago when I was going into a deep somnambulent trance in order to prepare for the show, I sent him a letter, and he has it, and if you'd hold it up and show everyone, it is sealed with sealing wax. And, Michael, you haven't opened it. You have no idea what's in there. You would go ahead and open it up right now?
Telepathically read it last week, but I couldn't.
Oh, well.
Open it.
Go ahead and unseal it if you would. And then I'd like you to step forward, if you would, as my witness. And take out the letter that's inside there.
Okay, it's sealed.
It is sealed. And would you go ahead and read out loud what I typed there, nice and loud.
Okay. On November 22nd, 1993, I received an impression of a single word. I have sealed this prediction in an envelope and mailed it to Michael Shermer, that'd be me, where it will remain in his safekeeping unopened until the afternoon of December 5th, 1993. That's today. On December 5th, 1993, I will attempt to prove that this sealed prediction is correct by having a random spectator from the audience at Caltech's Baxter Hall select, then read aloud a word that will be chosen by several steps she will be solely responsible for. I predict the word will be... Wallenberg.
Yes,
there it is. this junkie, Wallenberg.
There is the... Thanks. Thanks a lot. You keep that. Thanks. Okay. All right. So, now I'm getting an impression. I want to try something else with a member of the audience. I get a lot of impressions. Matter of fact, I am getting the impression someone is thinking about money. I'm going to try and work with something. How about this gentleman here? Would you mind helping out? So just stand up. You don't have to leave your seat. I'm only going to use your mind. And your name is, sir?
Jim.
Jim. Now, Jim, we have never met. You have no idea who I am or what's going to happen? Good. Jim, do you consider yourself a skeptic? Definitely. Oh. Okay. So you don't have any belief in lucky charms or anything like that? No. Well, that takes care of that idea. Because I'm getting the impression, Jim, that you have something that you carry with you even though you don't believe in good luck. I don't know, maybe not. Well, let me just try. Do you carry a pocket comb, sir? Yes. You do? Okay. Did you take the comb out of your pocket at any time between when you left the house and when you came in here today? Would you mind taking the comb out and handing it to this lady with the glasses right down here in front? Because I'm getting an impression, as strange as it may seem, that comb is missing 2 teeth. Am I right, ma'am? Yes. Would you hand that back to him? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. All right. I am only an unworthy instrument of these unseen powers. I want you to know this. All right, let's try something with some other audience members. Could I get a few people out of the audience? I'll just sort of reach around and choose them. Now they're all looking over here and over there. And how about you, sir? Would you mind joining me? Your name is?
Alan.
Alan. I had a feeling I was going to meet a man named Alan. If you would stand right over here, sir, if you would. And how about, let's see, how about this lady here? Would you mind? Your name is?
Joyce.
Joyce, how are you? Stand right next to Alan there. Okay, actually, let's do it this way. Make it nice, staged nicely. If you'd stand, I want Alan first, if that's okay, right here. And then I need one more person. How about, let's see. They're all looking up at the ceiling. I don't see anything up there, but that's all right. How about you, sir? Come on up and help out if you would. And your name is? Miklos. Miklos. How are you? So, these are the 3 subjects we're going to work with. Just relax. This is very easy to do. And I want you to tell everyone, we did not plan anything. You have no idea what's about to occur. I didn't send you $1,000 in the mail and say or do anything in particular. Correct? Correct. They look pretty skeptical to me. How about you? All right, I need one more person to help me out with this little bit of work. Would you mind helping me out? And your name is?
Gail.
Gail, how are you? If you would come over here, Gail. Have a seat. Now, I'm going to attempt what are called laboratory conditions. I said attempt. All right. I'm going to try what is called dermo-optic perception. Ye of little faith. They laugh. I understand. I found this very hard to believe the first time I witnessed it, but I think you will agree there's something to it. In Russia, they've done a lot of tests with it. The idea is, you may have heard that some people, when they are blinded, their other senses somehow take over and give them more strength. That's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try and see with my fingertips. So, I have some pieces of colored cardboard, and I have some pieces of metal foil. And I'm sorry, your name?
Gail.
Gail, what I'd like you to do is, you can examine the foil and the cardboards, make sure they're normal. And after you've done that, I want you to take each piece of cardboard, fold it inside the foil, and then put the stack in front of you right there, and mix them up as you're going along. Make sure they're all mixed very thoroughly, okay? All right. While she's doing that, here's what I'm going to have over here. Draw a line here and a line here. After I am blindfolded, what I want you to do is you, sir, are going to think of a 3-digit number. Write it in large numbers here so that everyone in the back can see it, okay? Below that, I'm going to have the lady, if you would, write a word in large letters, any word that comes to mind, but keep it fairly brief if that's okay. There's your word there, and in the bottom space, you, sir, I want you to draw some sort of geometric symbol. Something easy, not too complicated, but don't make it an obvious, like a triangle or something like that. Make it interesting, okay? So there is the chalk. Have you done that? Okay. Now, I'm going to ask all of you again, are you sure about what's about to occur? Absolutely. Okay, I'm just checking. To further mask, yes, this is safe psychic work that I do here. I want to be sure that toughest part of this whole thing is getting these gloves on and off, I'll tell you that. I'm doing this because I do not want to have any leakage of psychic energy. It could be dreadful. While I'm doing this, a box of Band-Aids there. If you go ahead and open that up, take out 4, and you can examine them, make sure they're unopened and sterile, of course. And what I'd like you to do is open those packages up, if you would. No, not those, the Band-Aid packages, I'm sorry. I've got to be clear. You have to be clear with your instructions when you're doing psychic work. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is, we're going to take, because I'm wearing these gloves, it makes it a little difficult, take the wrappers off and just sort of set the 4 Band-Aids in a row right there, okay? Get rid of any extraneous materials here. Now, I am going to be blindfolded, so if I ask you to help me out so that I don't fall on my face, I'd appreciate that, okay? All right, so now the first 2 I can probably get on by myself. The second 2, I want you to sort of hand to me so that I can put my thumb and forefinger there so it doesn't get too sticky. Okay. Oh, and before we go any further, I almost forgot. This is a stainless steel blindfold. This was used at the Ganzfeld experiments. You may have heard of this in Edinburgh, where they put ping pong ball halves over people's eyes and then covered their eyes and tried to send them telepathic images. And sir, would you mind helping me out for a moment? Go ahead and examine the mask. Make sure there's no... You sure can. As a matter of fact, here, I will help you, sir. Well, now, wait a minute. Hold on. No, that's not perfect until you make sure. Now, I want to ask you something, sir. Can you see down your nose at all or straight ahead?
Oh, I just see a red line.
I mean down here. Oh, you see you see your nose?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. All right, all right. All right, can you see anything behind you, sir? You see a little light, but you can't make out what's behind you right now.
I see some movement, very vague.
Okay, very vague. Good. These are skeptics. Okay. But for the most part, if I hold up, how many fingers am I holding up now, sir?
I have no idea.
Good. He's psychic too. All right, that's good. The idea is it's a solid stainless steel mask. Thank you. Okay, very good. All right. The things I do for a living. Anyway, let's see. Get this one on first. All right, now you got to help me. Hand me the one with my thumb in.
Thumb in the center?
Yeah, there we go. And the next one. And now, if you would, the mask. All right. Now, I'm going to turn with my back to the blackboard. Are you ready, folks over here? Do you have a piece of chalk? Yes. The gentleman first. What I'd like you to do, sir, is go ahead and write the 3-digit number, if you would. In fact, I'm going to stand back here. Okay. And below that, the lady, if she would go ahead and write the word. I don't know whether that's getting a laugh, but we'll find out. And finally, the design, sir. Okay. Now, if getting some laughs already. I don't know what's happening, but you've done everything, right? You're all finished. Okay. Now, if you would just back back up a little bit. Actually, let's do it a little differently. What I want you to do is erase everything there, okay? Go ahead and erase everything. And make sure it's thoroughly erased so that there can be no question. And now, if someone would help me, the gentleman who is closest to the bulletin board there, sir. Where are you? Are you here?
Yes.
Give me your hand. Wait, hold still, sir. You got a lint ball there. Hold on, let me get rid of that. May I have the chalk, please? The chalk. Okay, here we go. You know, I'm having a real hard time with the symbol or the drawing. I think I'm gonna wait for that. The lady with the packets. Can you help me over to the table and let me sit down now, so I don't hurt myself? The chair is right here. Okay. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to have you stand on this side of me, if you would. The packets are. All right, give them one final mix. I'll see what happens. All right, hand one to me one at a time, and I will attempt to discern what we have. I'm getting a light color, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Ah, boy. I think this might be orange. Would you go ahead and open it up and show everybody, see if I got it right? Yeah. Yep, good. Good. The next one, please. You didn't open it, did you? Oh, no. Okay, good. You want to give me any hints, do you? Not getting very much this time. Nothing. This is weird. Do you happen to want to make a guess for me?
By mistake, I saw it.
Oh, by mistake you saw it. Well, that wouldn't be fair, would it? Let's keep going here. Well, gee. I'm going to say blue. Let's see what happens. I'm getting a dark color. Go ahead and open it up and see if I got it right. I don't guarantee 100% on this, folks. It's blue? Okay, thank you. And my job is not an exact science, in case you do these things solely for your entertainment, without regard for bookings later. I'm not getting very much. Now, did you look at this one too, or okay, you didn't? Boy, don't give me a hint. I'm not getting anything. What do we have? We have red. We use red and blue. Gee, no, was it orange and blue, right? Orange and blue. Not a memory expert. Not getting anything here. Can we leave that one till later? Give me another one if you would. This one seems like green. Did we already do green? No, I didn't.
Yes, it's great.
It's green? Okay, good. One more, right? Should make it a little easier. Where's the other? This is the old one.
That's the old
Okay, good. Process of elimination makes it easier here. Yellow.
It's yellow.
It's yellow. So that means this one has to be red, right? Check it just to make sure. I'll make any mistakes here if I can help it. Is it red? Okay, good. All right, thank you. All right. Now, I'm going to remove the blindfold. So this is my favorite part of the effect. Okay, hello. And let's give the people here a round of applause for helping out. And you can have your seat. Thank you. All right. Wow. Leave all this stuff here for now. Okay. Well, I didn't get that last thing there. So let's... People in the audience, do me a favor. Now, you know what he drew, right? Focus on it for me, all right? Because I'm going to try and get it from all of you. It makes it a little... Is that it? Okay. All right, one more little... One digit is off? How's that? All right. Well, folks, I have one more that I'm going to try with, I'm sorry, I forgot your name? Opal. Opal did plan something with me, okay? Big surprise, right? So, Opal, would you mind coming up on the stage and helping out? Here's what happened. She was one of the first ones here, so what I did is I asked her to take this sketch pad and take it out into the hall, and I asked her to draw a geometric shape, sort of like that one, but I gave her a free choice. Now, Opal, I want you to make sure that everyone is convinced you had an entirely free choice, right? I didn't take a pack of cards and say, pick one, and this will be the symbol. You just made it up from your mind, right? And you were around the corner. There was no way I could see? All right. This is the tough one, but I will see what happens. What I'd like you to do is, and she has a light-proof envelope, by the way. Go ahead and unseal the envelope. You can just rip it. It's okay. I spend more money on manila envelopes than any two people. Okay, have you got that? And she folded it up in a nice little packet. Hold it between your two hands, if you would. And come forward just a little bit here. Hold it out in front, like this. And Opal, we didn't plan anything, did we? Yes, we did. We planned this. But she had a free choice. The idea is, oh, this is a strange symbol that you've chosen, Opal. You didn't seem like the kind of person who I would think would be into the occult. But that's all right. What month were you born?
December.
Around the 19th? No? Thanks for working with me on that, Opal. It's okay. She has a free choice, very free mind. She's been very helpful. All right, what we're going to do now is I want you to stand over here if you would. And we don't want the audience to see this yet, so we'll just flip it over. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and unfold your piece of paper, but don't show it to the audience yet, all right? We'll keep it right here. Just unfold it and hold the design towards yourself so that I still can't see it. And what we're going to do is count to 3, and when I count to 3, turn it around. Not yet. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead. Okay. Thank you for helping me out. Thanks a lot. You want to keep that? Keep that for a souvenir. All right. So now, the explanations, right? Yes, you had a question. You did. You did. Thank you for validating my life. I appreciate that. You see? Who cares if it's 1 out of 200? That's all right. I mean, let's face it, folks. None of us really believe that these things can happen. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. I mean, you don't really believe that psychics can control things and that, matter moves by itself. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's just get to the lecture part of the show here. All right. So as I said, I am a skeptic, and I'm proud of it. But I love this stuff because, this is my only complaint with the skeptics, and that is, to me, Uri Geller is probably the greatest living magician on the face of the earth right now. He may not admit that, but I admire him as a person because he has taken, the basic idea why I admire it is because he's taken this idea that our minds, what if we could use our minds? Wouldn't that be nice? So, most magic doesn't attempt that. Most magic is you will be fooled, you will not figure out how I'm doing this, and that's pretty much as far as it goes. It's a skill. Granted, I love magic, I always will, but to say that you use your mind and that somehow your mind, they say this thing where we only use 10% of our brain power. What if we were able to use 20%? Well, what if? Okay, so my reasoning to stay in magic and be around magicians is that I feel that if anything real ever turned up, you and I would probably be one of the first groups to hear about it. And I think that's the hope. Unfortunately, nothing has ever happened, and Randy would probably agree with that. But the point is, if it could happen, to know about deception and to know about magic and sleight of hand gives you a little bit of an edge. It doesn't always, I'm fooled by magic all the time, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. When you really get down to it, it is a skill. Everything I did here was a skill. I didn't learn it overnight. And those of you who came here this afternoon thinking that I was going to tip magic secrets or psychic secrets, I'm sorry. Because most of these effects or things that I have done have taken years for the person who invented them to perfect, and they've taken quite a long time for me to feel halfway confident to present them for you. And I think that to present, like Psychop has recently done some magic, Learn to be a Mentalist sessions. Anybody go to any of those? Yeah? Okay, right, Arthur. Well, that's good, that's good. I'm a little bit, that kind of bugs me a little bit, because for me, I do this as entertainment. I don't say that I'm real, but the idea is, if you want to learn this, any magic shop is available for you to learn these things. My notes, as a matter of fact, which are over there. These are notes. I have a class that I teach. It's called Advanced Magic. I print 30 copies for each of the students. Whatever's left is over there. Basically, this is magic, but with a sort of a psychic slant to it. There aren't too many, rope tricks or, the green handkerchief is now red. Forget that, If you're interested in that, then you do have to go to the magic shop, okay? I'm interested in the psychic mentalist world, okay? Now, all of these things are available. In many cases, the things that I have done have been in print for many, many years. You have to do a little homework. You have to want to learn this stuff. It's like any other kind of magic or any other skill. Most of us are amazed by it, and then that's the end. Okay? If you want to learn it, You can go to any magic store, tell them that Mark Edwards sent you, and they will be happy to show you the bookshelf of mentalist books. I was actually going to bring some mentalism books, but I said to myself, nah. They're there, and if you want to learn, all of this information is there. The key to good mentalism is characterization. What you do is there's an acting ability that's involved with it, just like with seance work. That's what sells it. Uri Geller is a fantastic actor. In case how many people have seen Uri work? Wow, more than I thought. So I mean, he has a personality, he has charisma. That is the psychology of the psychic. Speaking of which, I did bring a few books that I can recommend slightly. Now, these are not trick books, okay? These are not tricks per se. They are psychology, because so much of what I did here, the method is nothing. It's the psychology and the build-up. See, that's why mentalism and psychic things tend to work when other magic, people see it and they say, oh, it was a trick. Because it works on a mind level, or you hope it does. People say, gee, I've heard of that dermo-optic perception. I've heard that blind people can feel and touch and taste things to a greater degree than a blind person or a person who can see. How many people have heard that rumor? Okay? See, we've all heard it. I don't think there's any scientific proof about it, but the beauty of the concept is that you can take a little bit of information that people may have heard about and you blow it up into something that makes you like a Superman. How many people have seen the movie Hanneson? Wow. You want to see the depths and the heights of what a psychic performer can do, I highly recommend Klaus Maria Brandauer as Hanneson. It is a fantastic movie. It will show you what can happen, because it's Nightmare Alley, meaning that if you get a little too full of yourself, then strange things start to happen. So for me, being a skeptic is part of that kind of leveling off. I like to work for you guys. As a matter of fact, I would rather work for skeptics at any time instead of magicians. Why? Because you're thinking, okay? And that's the important thing. So, a few books that I brought. These are not trick books. The first one is Psychology of the Psychic. I read this is a paperback. This is pretty old. I think it's probably 12 years old. I read this about 6 or 7 years ago, and it has helped me tremendously to understand how to go about, I wouldn't say fooling the public, let's say entertaining the public in a way that gets them to think. It has chapters on Kreskin. It has a chapter on Uri Geller, the methods that are employed. And one of the beautiful things about mentalism, I'll give you a secret, why I like it. Magic, you have to be 100% right. If I take a green handkerchief and I put it in this side, it better come out red the other side. If it doesn't come out red, the audience kind of says, ah. But if you're a psychic or you're a mentalist and you're a little bit off, it adds to the believability. Now, for me, that's beautiful, because that means I can screw up and it doesn't matter. And if you ever saw Uri Geller, the famous, that was on the Randy special, it was on Nova, where he was in front of Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson had checked all the props before they went on, and for a funny reason, Uri couldn't make it happen. So to me, it was interesting, because I would have at least had some way out, but he just said, I can't do it, and that was it. So it has a built-in failure mechanism, which I think is just wonderful. I mean, in fact, when you fail, people believe you even more, which is really amazing to me. I've had things happen in the seance room where something has not worked right, and the people want to believe so much that they will make an excuse for me, which is really a frightening concept. Yes?
Did you purposely initially write 319 instead of 318?
Well, I leave you to figure that out yourself. I think if we reconstruct what I just said, you'll probably figure out what's going on. That's a very important word. I just came back from a meeting of people who do weird magic. It was called the Weird Weekend, and it was people who professionally do this kind of thing day in and day out. And that's sort of what we were talking about, is the idea that failure is built into it. And as I was saying, people want to believe. They want to believe, and if they see that you're failing, they're so used to seeing magic tricks that they will say, it's okay, that happens to me all the time when I try and do that. When I'm blindfolded with Band-Aids like that, sometimes I don't get it exactly right. So they go out of their way to provide an excuse. And I think that's something to watch for. Another thing that does in the psychology of the psychic is it makes the performer more believable. I mean, if I come out and I say, everything is exactly right, and, then you're going to say, gee, it's a trick. Everything went perfect. But if it's a little bit off, then people kind of say, well, gee, if it was a trick and he was a magician, why didn't it all work? So these are the things you watch for. When I see a psychic or a performer, I consider myself a professional psychic. Okay? And I'm not going to lie to you. I do that. And when I do it, what I do is real. Because I don't do tricks. I actually tell people things, and I tell them enough things that, generally speaking, something turns out to be right. I'm not kidding you. If you'd like to listen to what I do, I am on KBIG. I am one of the KBIG psychics, and I am proud of it. I'm on Saturday night, 6 to midnight. And as far as I'm a skeptic, I will tell you that I have had more hits on the radio than I've ever had in my entire life. I can't explain it, but I get calls all day long, people saying, how do you do it? And I have to say, I don't know. To me, a lot of times, being psychic means paying attention. That's all it is. I have a little quote from a book that I wanted to read. This is a book called A Sequel to the Art of Cold Reading. Cold reading is a technique that's used by psychics, and it's like, I don't want to give away too much, but the point is, cold reading is the ability to tell people things about themselves, and then later they can't believe that you told them. So just to paraphrase, this is a book, it's been around for many, many years. I'll read just a few short things. After all, anyone who seeks the services of a reader expects to pay for these services whether or not they are pleased with the reading. This means, for the most part, that the seeker to knowledge is pre-sold. You have already won half the battle. Through advertising, reputation, or your claims, the client is gullible enough to expect you will be able to tell him what they want to know. It is their willingness to believe that makes your job possible. Okay? Now, there's been a lot of controversy about this, and I'm a member of the Psychic Entertainers Association. They feel that you should always be an ethical performer. Well, you know what? Ethics, I am sorry. I am a performer. It's like if I was to go into, say you went to a French restaurant, a really fancy French restaurant, and right before they served the meal, the chef came out and said it came out of a can. Would you be happy? I don't think so. So what I try and do is I serve a nice gourmet meal, and I let the audience decide. Now, that's where we get into the ethical question, because with the educational system such that it is today, there is a lot of gullibility. But who am I to try and educate the world? That's the way I feel. I don't want you to think that I don't take advantage of people, because I'm not doing this thing where I'm getting a little old lady and I'm saying, if you bring your money and wrap it up in a sock, and then I do the gypsy switch. No. This is somebody who's paying me to come into their environment and entertain them. Okay? I'll take questions in a second. I am entertaining them. That is what they pay me for. I make that very clear in the beginning. And when I've talked to Yuri, he's gotten in so much trouble. But the bottom line is, he told me, he said, Mark, as long as you say it's for entertainment, you're okay. So 20 years ago, I don't think he used that disclaimer. Now he's using that. So a disclaimer is a very interesting situation. And that's the crux of the real issue between when you say you're real and when you are an entertainer. A disclaimer means that you say that, what I'm doing is done through totally natural means. I tailor that to the specific audience. Is that wrong? I mean, if I have an audience and I have, say, 60% believers, am I going to tell them that what I'm doing is a trick? No, because you take away, people don't like it when you take away their belief system. You punch holes in it and say, I didn't really do anything psychic, here's how it works. People, there's two words, this is what I like to tell people. There's illusion and there's disillusion. Which do you prefer? Okay, so this is another good line. Most people with problems on their mind know the answer, but do not have the courage of their own convictions and wish to share the credit or blame for sound advice. So everybody knows before they go to a psychic basically what they need to do and what the answer is, but they don't trust their own intuition, so they want to go and either blame someone else or pay for it and say, well, a psychic told me this, so it has to be true. So these are the kind of things that you learn to work with. Now, if you tell people that it's a trick, they will come up to you afterwards. And this is why I just wrote an article for Magic Magazine in October on seance work, and I talk a little bit about believers. And they are interesting folks because you can tell them flat out, which I don't do anymore, but say everything I did was a trick. They say, no, you're just covering up for your real powers. I understand. They don't want people to know. So after a while, after a few years of this, finally you start to say to yourself, why am I bothering trying to explain this when no matter what I say, you are going to believe what you want. Your experiences are going to tell you what is real and what is not real. That's just the way it is. And it is pointless for me to try and educate somebody. I was going on another train of thought here. The idea about, one of my favorites is there's a magician, well, let's call him a Surrealchemist. Like that name? Surrealchemist in England, his name is Doc Shields. He's one of my favorite people in the magical world, and that is magic with a K, as it's spelled here, the Old English version. He uses what's called a double-blind double bluff, which I think is genius. What he does is he comes out of an audience and he says, everything I do is a trick. I don't do any supernatural things. Everything you see here is done with tricks. I don't do anything. I'm not possessed. I don't have any powers. I mean, he doth protest too much, you see. He makes such a dramatic thing out of it that by the time he gets to what he's going to do, you're just saying, this guy has got some sort of power that he doesn't want us to know about. So, very interesting. I think it's brilliant. And to see Doc Shields' work and to read his books, I highly recommend any of his books. He has several out. One is called The Shields Effect, which is basically how to become a psychic superstar. And it is devious to the extreme, but it's a lot of fun, very good reading, and very entertaining. So on to these books real quick. Psychology of the Psychic, got it right over there. You can't beat it. It's Kreskin will never be the same after you read this book. Okay, and then we have Dr. John Booth. He's a good friend of mine. This one is called Psychic Paradoxes. This is a Ridgeway press, but I believe that Prometheus Books has it out in paperback now. I highly recommend it. It covers a lot of the historical people, or hysterical, whatever you want to call them, the crossover between magic and mentalism. Okay, so it's an excellent book. This is Howard Thurston. Dunninger is in here. It's very good. It's a good primer to start you off. It gives you a couple good effects or tricks to do. But basically, he even says in here, and this is the interesting point that I want to make, is that, as I said, when you do this sort of thing for a living, things do happen. And of course they happen to all of us in day-to-day life, but this book, that's why I think he called it Psychic Paradoxes, is because he's a magician, and he spent his life going around trying to search for what could be real. And he's got a few things in here that he hasn't been able to explain. So it's interesting because we think we know everything, but then every once in a while something pops up that the magicians can't figure out. This is Milburn Christopher. This is called Mediums, Mystics, and the Occult. A great book. Not so easy to find anymore, but look for it in used bookstores. It's, again, new revelations about the psychics and their secrets. And Milburn has a great way of expressing what he wants to say, sort of the way I would like to. And that is, he doesn't actually tell you how the secrets work, but he gives you little hints so that maybe if you want to do further research, then you can go ahead and look it up for yourself. All of this stuff has been around hundreds of years. There's very little in the psychic world that is new, okay? And if it is, it's just a recapitulation of something that's been around for a long time. So those are the 3 books that I wanted to recommend. Just real quick, how do psychics get their information? Well, we listen. You listen, you pay attention. I pretty much stopped getting magic magazines. I don't get magic magazines. What I subscribe to now are demographics magazines. Anybody know about American demographics? How many people? Show of hands. This is the real work. If you're a psychic and you want to know what's going on in the United States, or you want to find out for marketing purposes, which is what this is for, this is a demographic magazine. What it does, every month it covers the whole United States with, every page is a different statistic, different little bit of information about what people are buying, what they're wearing, what they're eating, what they don't like, what they like, how much cash they have, what part of the country people live alone the most in. I mean, it is really incredible, because if you work with people, although they say statistics lie, it's pretty interesting stuff. Because say, for example, I do my little homework and I find out that in Iowa, the 2 biggest selling products are, I think this was in last month's, baby shoes and baby clothes and women's shoes. Those are the 2. They're at the top of the list. So say I have somebody up here and I've done a little homework and the person says, I'm from Iowa. And I say, have you bought any baby clothes lately? Wow. Yes. And some shoes. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm generalizing. But the point is, it's getting good information. And now with computer systems, you would not believe the information that's available to somebody who wants to tap into it. And it gets pretty scary. I'll tell you, there's some information packages out there which are of dubious legality, which I think it gets a little bit scary. But you know, if you want to find out information, I could, if I have your Social Security number, you're a dead duck, folks. I can tell you what the first car you ever owned, what color it was, what the license plate number. You know, I mean, these are the things that you study and you find out about. Another good one is called Bottom Line Personal. Anybody ever hear of this? This is really, I mean, this is great stuff. It's information. It's just a little bulletin, but you get little gems that you couldn't get anywhere else. Like a month or 2 ago, they had an article. It was by a weatherman explaining what the weather is going to be like for the next year. And he based it on Mount Pinatubo erupting, and there's this cloud of smoke and ash that's circling around the globe. And then he used the computer to kind of plot out, sort of like an almanac, what the weather was going to be like month by month for different states. So that means if you pay attention to that, you can tell somebody there's going to be a huge flood in your state at the end of August. You write it up, you seal it in an envelope, send it to Michael Shermer. August rolls around, you know. So I think I've said about enough of. There are no secrets. That's the thing. People always think that there's a secret to being psychic, and to me, it's just you have to love people. I think that's the most important thing. You have to want to be involved with people and listen to their problems day in and day out, and then you get a pretty good feel for, like I gave the gentleman the reading about, you know. And that was of course for entertainment purposes only, and but it still works. So, any questions? Yes.
How did you spell the name of that moving picture?
Hanason?
Yeah.
Hanason. Yes. I hope I get it right. And it's German with English subtitles. Foreign film. If you like Klaus Maria Brandauer, it's really good. He's great. Anything else? Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, I did see that, as a matter of fact. I've forgotten, and it is as good as you said.
Yes.
I wanted to take issue with something you raised earlier when you said if there is something out there or if something happens, we, meaning the skeptics, would be the first to detect it. And I got to thinking about that, and I wonder whether, in fact, we would be the last, because we're locked into our belief system, quote unquote, and our thinking patterns, our scientific, etc.
Right.
I'm just wondering if something, quote unquote, ever happens, wouldn't it be the intuitive, right brain, non-logical person?
Yes, but no one would believe them. So it wouldn't matter. I know what you're saying, though. That is most likely true. I think the point I was trying to make, and Di Vernon, who was the guru of the Magic Castle, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a magician. He recently died a few years ago. He was an incredible old gentleman, and he has a videotape out right now where he doesn't talk about tricks. He just talks about why he got into magic and the things that he likes. And one of his comments is basically that he always liked everything that was odd or strange, whether it was a sword swallower or a psychic or a card trick or a 3-card monte or a 3-shell game, because he liked the idea of the cleverness that was involved with whatever the person was doing, acrobats, dancers, whatever. And his whole idea was like what I would say, which is that if you watch that sort of odd behavior, then you're more able to see through the tricks if there are any. I think the last special that Randy did, I'm not a big Randy fan. Just kidding, Randy. No, I thought it was very good. I thought the last special, he had toned down. It wasn't as strident as some of the other things that I've seen. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it when how many people saw the thing on Nova, where he had the Russian psychic with the jars of water, and the poor guy was just, he was like pushed in a corner. And but that's what I'm saying. It's just that if you're involved in skepticism or you're involved with sleight of hand or magic, I'm not saying we're better than the average viewer, because I think what you're trying to say is sometimes the naive person can have an idea that you never would have thought of because we're so locked in. And I think
That's not what I mean. I mean, if there is anything, quote unquote, we can't define anything because it's the things we can't explain that you're talking about, right? It's possible that a person without a rigidly organized scientific system of evaluating phenomena might pick up on something intuitively that we might not.
Well, again, I think that happens every day, but they don't have any credibility, so it doesn't matter. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I think there are intuitive people out there, and I mean, in my search, I think I've met maybe 2 people in my whole life that I thought were real psychics, but they didn't wave a flag about it. They didn't say it. In fact, they were embarrassed about it, and they didn't want people to know. I think that is the real dividing line. When a psychic occurrence happens, I think we wouldn't be here if we hadn't had something that happened to us that made us wonder. The dividing line is when someone says, I'm going to make it happen here, now, today, and then they make it happen. I mean, that's when my antennas go up and I say, well, let's take a second look at that, okay? So, yeah, there are people out there who do things, and I don't have any doubt about that. That's why I say I'm a skeptic to a certain point. And at another point, when you meet somebody that seems to do something or have something that jumps outside of what we understand, then life becomes interesting again. Yes?
Yes, I understand that what you're doing with the gentleman, which was generally flattering, generally true for everyone in
Right.
general. I have once been to a psychic who said, I do not believe in charging. I teach classes on how to be a psychic. I do not accept any money whatsoever. I have a separate full-time job. Please do not give me any money. I will not accept it. And
What's his phone number?
sorry, I no longer be moved out of the area.
No, that's what I'm
But
saying.
Seriously, I went up to the gentleman, his very first statement, the only thing you were allowed to say when you walked into that room was, what is your name? That is it. You were not allowed to talk whatsoever. He immediately said, the name I gave him was my middle name. He said I had a boy's first name. Information would not be true of the vast majority of the world. Therefore, how can we make a statement like that?
He's psychic. See, again, you're assuming that I'm a complete skeptic, and I'm not a complete skeptic, because I have had experiences happen where people have called, especially with the radio show that I do, where there's no way I could know, but what you learn to do, being intuitive means you say whatever comes to your mind without any regard whether the person wants to hear it or whether it's true or not. And I don't know why it works. Now, again, I'm hearing it from you. I would have to be standing right next to that person to be able to understand that if there was a method being used. But please remember, how many people have heard of D.D. Hume, the famous English medium? He's one of my idols because he was never caught. He entered engagements barehanded. He never had any props. He was never caught. He never took any money for his performances. He took hulking big gems from the states, the kings and queens of England and France and everything else, but he never took any payment for his services. So I think there are certainly people who do those things, and I'm not, it's hard for me to judge them. I don't like to judge somebody like that, because he may have said, well, I don't want to take any money from you, and then after he's got the hook in, then he says, well, now if you want to contribute, I'm... Those,
how much do you charge for giving us?
I don't want to get into that, because that's I don't like to discuss the fees, because again I am negotiable, as they say. Depends on the engagement. Is it a Christmas party, or are we trying to bring back Uncle Bill, from the dead? I mean, the rates go up according to. I have people call me up and they want me to bring back a real dead person, which to me is like, I have to say, well, I do this for entertainment, and they say, and they're disappointed that if I can't bring back a real spirit. So I say, well, I can bring back a real spirit, but it costs a lot more, because if you say that, then the usual seance, unfortunately, if you read the history of mediumship, most real seances are the most dull, boring experiences you can ever imagine. People sit in a circle, they sing hymns, and nothing happens. Now, for me, if they're going to pay me, see, that's the thing. If somebody says, we're going to pay you to do this, you better have something happen. Otherwise, they're not going to be happy at all. But talk to me later about my rates. Anyway, yes?
Do you believe that mental telepathy is a rational concept?
Yes. Well, wait a minute. Rational concept, that's like, I don't know what that means. I believe that it does exist, because I have had experiences, and I know many, many people who I talk to day in and day out. So, yeah, I do. Any other questions? Yes?
You said that in the course of your work you've had experiences
Yeah.
and explained that you've had planned.
Mm-hmm.
Why should that be surprising or even encouraging, given the laws of probability?
Well, because they were very specific things. They weren't things that could be probable. They were actual mental images that I got pictures of, and then I didn't use them, and then later I found out that there was a link. In other words, they were not, how can I describe it? I know what you're saying. Sure, probability says that, a certain amount of times you're going to be right. But what I'm saying is, say for example, I asked someone to think of some place in the world, and this happened, I'll give you an example the other night. This is not a real zinger, but it will give you the idea. I asked someone to think of some place in the world I couldn't possibly know about. They thought of Edinburgh, but I wrote down Firth of Forth, because I've been to Edinburgh, and I know that the Firth of Forth is close to Edinburgh, and I've learned that if you make it a little bit different or not exact, then people say, well, that's close. So it's an amazing story. So anyway, so I did that, and the person, and I guess I'm trying to relate it to what you asked, because the person, when I actually read the prediction that said Firth of Forth, they were completely stunned, and they just blanched completely white, and I said, why is that? And they said, well, my parents died in an airplane crash in the Firth of Forth. It was like, ooh, that the performance took a real bad turn at that point, So, that's the kind of thing that you wonder about. I'm not saying it's real or not real. I'm just saying that when you play with it, and this is why I say that there's nothing wrong with this as entertainment, because the idea, and I'll stand by it 100%, is when you open doors in people's minds, if you play with some of these concepts, that things can happen. I'm not saying they will happen, but I'm saying the fun of it for me is when they do happen. That particular incident was not fun, but other things have happened where I've opened the door and somebody has, I've either written something down or predicted something, and then it comes back to me days later, and I look at it and I say, how did I do that? And I don't know how I do it. And then, probability. It's an interesting question. I don't know what to think. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. If I didn't think there was a big question here, I wouldn't be here. Yes.
Have you ever had an experience with the Ouija board, and do you have any theory of what happened?
Well, the Ouija board. My theory is basically that it's facilitated communication, or it's subconscious level. My only experience with it has been that most people who I've tried to introduce it into an environment with are terrified of it, and they don't want to be involved with it. It's the one thing short of the pentagram that just frosts people right away. They see it, and I think what it is it's a subconscious, it taps into the subconscious just like a pendulum or some of the other psychic techniques. They're not psychic, they're called idiomotor responses. And basically what it comes down to is there are things that are in your subconscious, and you know, it's like table tilting is the same thing. You know, you get a table and move around a room because people want it to happen. And the Ouija board is the same thing. It focuses everybody's dreams and their wishes, and sure enough, you get a message. But I've never had anything come through a Ouija board that was proved later to be correct, if that's your question. I don't know if you know this, but the Ouija board is maybe this isn't recent, but I think it was 1989. It was the largest selling board game in history. It beat Monopoly, so that tells you that somebody thinks about it. Yes?
You ever been on a gambler's rush?
A gambler's rush?
Like a high where no matter what you do, it turns out right?
Yeah, I've had a couple evenings where I've had when I used to do walk around magic. I still do, but when I worked at a comedy club one night, and I had the same card come up like 12 times in a row. And after the 8th time, I went back to the dressing room and I started looking at the cards and saying, "How is this happening?" And then I talked to another magician I was working with, and he said, "Well, go back out there, and if it happens 5 more times, come back." And it did. And it was like, and I started to think that the owner of the club had somehow, you know, told all these people to say 9 of spades, but I knew it couldn't be. So I mean, I've had situations where, you know, it goes way beyond what chance would tell, and examining the card and looking to make sure it didn't have any dirt on it or anything made no difference whatsoever. So yeah, I wouldn't call it a gambler's rush or streak, but I would call it incredible coincidence that happened. And of course, the people who are in the audience are looking at me, they're going, "What's the big deal? 9 of spades. Do the trick." And I'm like going, "Jeez, what is going on?" So that's why I'm saying, when it leaps outside of being a magician, when all of a sudden something goes outside of where, and then of course you have to stay in character like, well, of course it's a 9 of spades. Meanwhile, you go backstage and you're going, "I don't know what's happening." Anyway, yes?
I in reference to your comments, the reading you once did that kind of surprised you over the phone, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to relay a story. I once had a similar experience. I was upstairs in my bedroom, sitting at my desk working, and suddenly, out of the blue, I was doing some math, and out of the blue, I had this vision of my grandmother, like something bad happening to her, and then the phone rang right after that, and I was like really scared. And my mom said, "It's for you," and I didn't know what was in it, so I picked up the phone, and it was like my friend from college.
Yeah, how many times does the phone ring and it's not your grandmother? No, I understand what he's saying. He's saying, sure, how many times do these things happen where you don't connect it? Well, that's true, but for me, that's not so much fun as having something that does connect. I mean, you know, I'm not into this to try and convince people. I'm just into it because sometimes it entertains me. You see, I wouldn't do this stuff if I didn't get a thrill. And the thrill is not to try and fool you. The thrill is just to get us to talk about it. Yes. Take this lady here. The believer, yes. Just kidding.
I understand what you were saying, but there are people who are very sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
But like, how do you explain when we're talking, when he was talking about probability, that I would get out of every single symbol
Right.
that it was the pentagram? I mean, don't you think that's very simple?
No, I think that we might have had a past life experience with each other. I'm sorry. A lucky guess, you know. I don't know how to describe it. Who knows? That's for the fun of it. And we're losing the audience as we speak here. We better get skeptical. Okay, I'll take
one or two more questions.
Okay, 1 or 2 more. Yes, sir.
Is there any trick that you can tell us from your radio experiences that when someone calls in, that you can do something that's...
No, because I don't do any tricks on the radio. No, I'm serious. Because the radio, what I do is I take calls from total strangers. They don't see me, I don't see them. They ask a specific question, and what I've learned to do is I have a pad of paper. It's kind of like automatic writing, if you will. And after I get the question, I think about it for a minute, and I write an answer. And then I try and get a mental picture of something, whatever it is. And then I write what the mental picture is. And then when the caller comes on, I answer their question. I have to remember 9 times out of 10, most of the questions are, I met this guy the other night, and I want to know whether we're going to be getting together soon, you know. Yes. But what I do is, the reason why I'm involved with this radio thing is because then I play with it a little bit. Like, for example, last night I had a call, and the woman wanted to know about her job, and I wrote down birds and flowers. Okay? So I answered her question, and when I was done with that, I said, why am I getting the impression or the image of birds and flowers? And she said, well, the guy who just hired me for the job just sent me flowers today. So, I mean, zing, you know. People, all of a sudden the board lights up, you know. Everyone's like, he's a god, call him quick. You know, so, I mean, on one hand I make fun of it. On the other hand, it's pretty hard to not enjoy that kind of work because there is no trick to it. I think the best way I can describe it is the thing that's really good that I like about it is it's taught me to let go. Because as a magician, everything has to be just in the right place. Everything has to be set, and it's very anal-oriented. I mean, you know, numbers got to be right, the colors, you know. But with the psychic thing on the radio, I can just go off the top of my head and still have people be caught by it. And I don't know how it works. To me, phrases like off the top of my head, out of the blue, gut level, those are where I am at. You know, there are things we say in the English language that we just say, oh, I got this gut level feeling, or I thought of it off the top of my head. If you can play with that, then I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. And again, it's like a situation where if you guys took me and put me in a laboratory and wired me all up and said, all right, do it, you know. It has to be playful. You have to be able to let go. And luckily, I have that outlet. See, if it was a situation where I had people, you know, saying, you know, psychic warfare, or saying, you know, what are the Russians doing? You know, I mean, it wouldn't work. But it's the idea that it's play. If you play with it, then the other people tend to play with you. In other words, she didn't have to say that her boss gave her flowers, but it sure made her sound good over the radio, didn't it?
Do you ever tell people very negative things when they call in?
Lately, I tell people, as I said, exactly what I feel without any regard whether it's good or bad. Because I've listened to the other psychics that I work with for the most part, and I've found that it's always good news. And I think that's fine, but I try and tell people just what I feel.
How do they react if they get bad news?
Well, I don't give them bad news. In other words, I don't say, you're going to die in 5 days, so you better get your act together. No. What I try and do is I try and make it constructive. They ask me a question. If I feel that there's something bad going on, I will say, yes, this is going to happen, but if you do this, then it won't happen, you see. See, that's the difference. I don't like to just tell somebody that they're doomed. I like to say, you're doomed, but maybe if you do this, then you'll be able to get out of it. So I learned a long time ago that if you just tell everybody good things, then it's not real. You have to tell people what you feel. I think part of being psychic, just to cover the last question, I think we are all psychic. I hate to tell you folks, but you are psychic. And all it means is being able to trust and believe in what you feel. There's no trick to that. And the people who have made it in the psychic world, number one, they don't generally come from an entertainment background. See, I come from a magic background. So I'm an entertainer first and a psychic second. The dangerous psychics are the people who believe, and this is my opinion, are the ones that really believe that they're doing you a service by telling you you're going to die in a week. And they're out there because I deal with them all the time. Those are the ones that you need to go after. The people who are doing harmless tricks like this or bending spoons or keys, who cares, really? I mean, it's like if somebody could bend a spoon or a key, does that really change a person's life? I don't think so. But a psychic that tells somebody that they're doomed, that they're going to die, and believes in it, I think that's part of what Hanason is about. That's part of, if you ever see the movie Nightmare Alley, anybody see Nightmare Alley? It's another good one, you know. Nightmare Alley is this idea that the most dangerous psychic is one that believes in himself. Because once you start to believe in it, and I'm walking that line right now, okay? Because I like to believe that what I say is real, because then the audience will believe it. So it's a tough area, and that's why I love it. It's not easy. Yes?
In the movie, Leap of Faith.
I haven't seen it, no, but I know that's a good one.
But
Yeah.
you know the basic.
Right, right.
But you were speaking of the ethical connection.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes into another area of belief,
Mm-hmm.
and this is similar, reading the audience, knowing
Right.
how to work the audience. What is your opinion on that? On
I'm not sure I
using
understand the
skills
question.
and techniques and
Well, I don't think the skills and techniques that I use are any different than the televangelists or the people who do that sort of thing, because it's all based on getting information. If I draw the line, what I say is, if I help somebody, which I do, and I can tell you that, okay, I help the people who I talk to, for the most part, I help them in some way. I don't have a degree on the wall. I'm not a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, but I help them as best I can.
But in the movie, he says, I'm giving them what they want.
That is true. That is why when Primetime did this thing about 900 psychics, they made a big deal about saying, you're selling people hope. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think that there are a lot of other organized situations that sell people hope too. And I don't have a problem with that. In fact, if you can sell somebody hope and make them feel better about their life, and I have had many, many of my clients call me back and say that I changed their whole life. So, I mean, that starts to get you thinking after a while about the ethical side of it. So to answer your question, I think what it comes down to is when you've got a hook in somebody and then you abuse that. In other words, helping somebody once is one thing, and I'll end up real quick. What I try and do is if I give somebody a reading, see the difference to me between psychiatry and psychic work is a psychologist or a psychiatrist will say, well, you've done very good today, I'll see you next week. It's good, and that's great, but what I try and do is I try and say, here's what I feel, here's what I see that you can do to improve this in your life. Goodbye. You don't need to ever talk to me again. So, I mean, I don't go for the hook. The problem is most psychics go for the hook. And they not only go to get the hook in, they send you horoscopes and books and photographs. And so that's where I draw the line. I just try and cut down to the chase, tell people what I feel, and then I say goodbye, because I don't like to get that involved with most of these people, to be quite honest. Yes?